The call went out the night of June 7th, 2021 from the Murdaugh's Moselle property in Colleton County. 2 people shot dead. It's a call that turned this family upside down and started a series of events that ended with the patriarch of the family in jail and the speculation about the murders running rampant.
I need the police to answer immediately. My wife and child just shot badly.
That was the voice of Alec Murdaugh to the 911 operator just after he found the bodies of his wife and son.
I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay. Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Paul and Maggie Murdaugh were found near the kennel on the 1,700-acre Colleton County property. An autopsy showed both had been shot multiple times. At the time, Paul was awaiting trial in the death of Mallory Beach, a 19-year-old girl killed in a boating accident in 2019. Alec Murdaugh, a high-profile lawyer at a family firm, a legendary name in Hampton County, a name that would soon be tarnished by a series of alleged financial crimes. Connor and Anthony Cook were 2 of the 6 people on board the boat in Archers Creek the night of February 24th, 2019, the night that Mallory Beach died. The 2 are also responsible for 2 of the 3 civil lawsuits connected to the crash that night. Suits that are only a small part of the story, however. This incident that changed their lives forever.
He lost Mallory, whom he called his forever girl.
Patrick Carr says the tears and fears connected to that boat crash for Anthony Cook have never gone away.
He continues to wake up feeling like he's swimming in the river looking for someone.
Carr says Cook and Mallory were not intoxicated that night and seemingly knew that Paul Murdaugh behind the wheel, drunk, was a dangerous combination.
They were literally begging him, please take us back to the dock. Please either let Anthony drive the boat, let someone else drive the boat. They were trapped. He refused to let them off the boat.
Connor was left to twist in the breeze for nearly 2 months.
2 months where Joe McCullough, Connor Cook's lawyer, says his client was still under suspicion by investigators of being the driver that night. A whisper campaign led by Alex Murdaugh to switch the blame away from his own son.
It was Parker's contended in court during an argument, gee, we're going to have to explore who was driving the boat. If there's anybody in the world who doesn't know who was driving that boat, tell them to call me and I'll explain it.
Both McCullough and Carr put much of the blame for what happened that night on Parker's, where Paul Murdaugh, then just 19, used his brother's ID to buy alcohol.
That was the original sin that led to the boat crash. The fact that Paul Murdaugh could go into this retail store location with an identification piece that was obviously not his, with a payment source, a credit card or a debit card that was obviously not his, and walk out of the store holding up his wares as if he is a prize fighter.
These civil lawsuits remain unfinished, along with the suit filed by Mallory Beach's own family, all asking for damages from Alex Murdaugh and the Parker's Corporation. But according to the attorneys, this is about much more than money. It's about closure for everyone involved.
Everybody would like not to see this on television night after night. They don't want any more shoes to drop. They would just like for Hampton, for the families, to get back to what they do.
Every person in that boat and every family member of Mallory Beach would much rather have Mallory back than money.
2 counts of malice murder, 2 counts of possession of a weapon during a violent crime. Those are the new charges that Alec Murdaugh now faces. Direct accusations that he killed his wife and son on June 7th, 2021. That is when the 2 bodies were found on the family's Moselle property. The indictment offers very few details, but it does say Paul Murdaugh was killed with a shotgun, Maggie Murdaugh with a rifle, and the shooter in both cases was Alec Murdaugh. It is a not guilty plea for Alec Murdaugh as he stands in front of a judge saying he did not kill both his wife and son, and he wants a speedy trial. Alec Murdaugh walked into the Colleton County courtroom in shackles, thinner and with a shaved head. But the accused murderer kept the same resolve when it was time to enter his plea and murder charges.
What say you, Richard Alec Murdaugh? Are you guilty or not guilty of the felonies wherein you stand indicted?
Not guilty.
How shall you be tried?
By God and my country.
Murdaugh, who agreed to waive bond in this case, is facing 2 counts of malice murder for allegedly shooting and killing his wife Maggie and son Paul with 2 different guns in June of 2021. Prosecutors offered very few more details in the case, other than saying they do have forensic evidence and other evidence connecting Alec to the crimes. Both sides have agreed to put a gag order on any details of this case and any motions which would reveal evidence or details that could be in front of a jury. Alec Murdaugh is currently being held on $7 million bond in a Richland County jail, a number that his attorneys believe is just simply ridiculous because they say there's no way that Alec could pay it. But the South Carolina Attorney General's office say he's still a danger to himself and the community, and even brought in one of his alleged victims to help make their case. Now, Dick Harpootlian told the judge that a receivership has control of any of Alex's assets and should be allowed out on a reasonable bond so he can continue rehab for his alleged drug addiction and work on his defense against the 48 different charges he faces of stealing millions from his own clients and his own law firm. Now, the South Carolina Attorney General's office says Murdaugh paid himself more than $2 million in stolen money from victims. Much of that money still not been accounted for. Now, one of those victims, Thomas Moore, a state trooper who was a former Murdaugh client, says the lawyer took hundreds of thousands of dollars from him and left him with medical bills, injuries, and no settlement money to cover the cost.
I don't have anything personal against Mr. Murdaugh. He's a likable guy. But the fact of the matter is, he's been so nice to me and so welcoming and helpful to me that if he's going to steal the money that I need to pay my own medical bills to survive financially, he's going to steal from anybody.
Curtis Smith was either Alec Murdaugh's friend, his drug dealer, or both. No matter who he is, though, the man known as Cousin Eddie to many is on his way back to jail.
I don't have any money. All the money that Mr. Waters talking about, Alec Murdaugh got all that. I didn't get none of it.
That was Curtis Smith's comment at his last bond hearing back in June that led to today's bond revocation hearing. Prosecutors say he lied that day and has had tens of thousands of dollars in his bank account ever since he got out of jail.
Is there a consequence for when Mr. Smith stood before your honor and said, I ain't got no money, when he just a couple weeks ago had $80,000 in his checking account?
One side says it's a gotcha prosecution. The other calls it a blatant attempt to create drama. It does depend on which side you listen to when it comes to releasing evidence in Alec Murdaugh's murder trial. And Murdaugh's attorney took his case to a judge and to reporters today.
Gotcha prosecution. It's trial by ambush. Give us the stuff.
Dick Harpootlian following up on his legal motion with a plea to prosecutors. It's been 32 days. Where is the evidence and discovery you're supposed to provide the defense? Alec Murdaugh walked into the Colleton County Courthouse behind me with more hair than we've seen him in recent hearings and more confidence that his attorney's arguments about blood spatter evidence as well as his financial crimes situation may sway a judge.
We believe the forensics is going to show that whoever shot Paul Murdaugh and basically blew his head off would be covered in blood, not just spattered.
Alec Murdaugh's legal team got a victory in the first motion of the day. They'll get more evidence connected to alleged blood spatter from Paul on Alex's shirt the night of the murders. They say that shirt was destroyed by investigators testing it for the spatter, and the defense team no longer can test it themselves. There were also questions if Paul's blood was on it at all.
It's just this case is different. This case is unique. This case is more complex. He's still trying to prevent who he really is from being outed.
Then the issue turned to motive, and if prosecutors could use Murdaugh's alleged financial crimes and the attempt to cover them all up as part of the reason that he killed Maggie and Paul Murdaugh in June of 2021.
A lot of people assumed that this was a murder case, and then a few months later, there was some white collar thrown in there. We've realized that this is a white collar case that culminated with 2 murders.
He gave a great opening, closing, whatever argument he wants to give to the jury to point and paint Mr. Murdaugh as a bad guy. Their theory is to take himself away from being scrutinized in financial misdealings. He puts himself in the middle of a murder investigation.
The one thing that apparently will not be in the courtroom during trial, a picture of Alex's grandfather, longtime solicitor Buster Murdaugh. Both sides agreed that it would be taken off the wall before a jury is seated. And that judge is taking his time to rule on this situation. He wants to make sure that all arguments are heard. He's expected to make that ruling in the next few weeks. Andrew Davis, WSAV News 3, on your side.